right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. We are all here tonight for the same purpose, right? We are here to save our labor delivery birthing center here in Leominster. So again, I just want to applaud you all for coming and taking time out of your schedule to be here today. So on behalf of Community United, and I'm going to announce who the members of the group are. I have been chairing it along with.
Irene Hernandez.
So we're going to tell you the purpose of the meeting, and then we're going to also tell you the members of the group. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to have our legislators tell us, explain to us, what is the plan that the hospital is presenting to close the birthing center, including labor and delivery, postpartum, and nursery care. It's an opportunity for the community to share their experiences, their thoughts, and their concerns. The hospital never sought out input or feedback from the community before making this decision, and even after the fact, they still have not shared plans with the community at large. So the hope today is that the legislators will hear our stories, hear our feedback, and bring it back to the hospital administrators so that they're aware of where we stand on this decision that they've made. So who is Community United? Community United is a group of community leaders, advocates, residents that all took part in helping to put this meeting together, collect signatures of people opposed to the closing of the birthing center in Leominster. So I want to acknowledge the team members. First and foremost, Nettie Latimer, Executive Director of the Spanish American Center. When I call your name, can you just wave? Leona Wetzel, President of the Board of the Three Pyramids. Dolores Thibault Munoz, Deputy Director of New View. And her staff, Francisco Ramos and Gretchen Rodriguez. Miggy Velez, President of the Board of Directors for the Spanish American Center. Miriam Jean-Pierre, she here? Susan Buckles. Luisa Fernandez. Sally Cragen. Star. Joe Bowen. And Eneda Quiñones. Now, we recognize that they're not the only people who've been working in our community, and we want to thank each and every one of you who has gone out and collected signatures, who has gone out and made your voice heard in opposition of the decision that the hospital has made. Oh, area. All right. So I wear a lot of different hats, and I have a lot of different roles in our community. But tonight I'm here in my most important role as a mother. When I heard that UMass planned to close labor and delivery, I thought, how could this be? It must be a mistake. This just cannot happen. I was brought back to February 19th, 2014, when I was 31 and a half weeks pregnant with my son. In the early morning hours on that day, I showed up to the emergency room experiencing pain and discomfort. I was told that I was in labor and that I had to deliver my baby via emergency C-section in Leominster because there was no time to transport me to Worcester. I gave birth to my son in Leominster, held him briefly before he was taken away in an ambulance to the NICU in Worcester. I followed in a separate ambulance shortly thereafter. If labor and delivery was not available on that day, my son and I may not be here today. That's just a fact. So I know I'm not the only person who has experienced this. I know we have a lot of other women in our community who have experienced this. So tonight we want to hear from you. Today we want to hear about your experience. We want to hear about your concerns. So we hope that you'll share freely, again, so that our legislators can take this information back to hospital administrators. Irene's going to say a couple of words now. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening. I am here as a mother, as a grandmother, as a sister, as a friend, as an abuelita, hermana, madre. I am here as a community advocate. I am here because on December 5th, 2017, my daughter was bleeding, and she was 8.5 months pregnant. They had to bring her via ambulance to Leominster Hospital. My daughter had a placenta abruption. My daughter was hemorrhaging. My daughter was hemorrhaging. They had to take her into emergency surgery to save her life and to save my grandson's life. My daughter then needed 3 pints of blood because of how much blood she had lost in this event. So that's why I'm here. I'm here because if Leominster Hospital Labor and Delivery was not here, my daughter and my grandson would not be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Irene, for sharing that. I want to recognize our legislators. They are going to be here throughout the meeting, obviously listening to our feedback, taking the input that they hear here, and bringing it back to hospital administrators. So Mayor Steve DiNatale was here, but unfortunately had another commitment, so he had to leave. Mayor Mazzarella is on his way. When he arrives, we'll introduce him and have him say a few words. We have representative and our hero, our champion, Natalie Higgins. And we have another superhero here, Senator John Cronin. And our last but fierce superhero, Mike Kushmirik.
We also have City Council from Fitchburg, Sam Squalia, and the City Council President is also here. I don't know where he's at. I think he might have left, but we wanted to acknowledge and thank you for being here.
And I also see Sue Shalafo Zephyr as well, who's a city councilor in Leominster. So we're going to start this evening with words or some comments from Representative Natalie Higgins.
Thank you, Eladia. Thank you, Irene. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Natalie Higgins, and I am the state representative in this great city, the city of Leominster. And like so many... And like so many of you, when we got the news just before Memorial Day weekend from UMass Memorial Healthcare that they intended to close the labor and delivery unit just before Memorial Day weekend, I was in disbelief. I was angry.
Angry too.
And I knew I had to get all of my friends together because this could not happen again to this community. I am so thankful for all of you who have shown up and spoken out. Many of you know we were here 6 years ago when UMass Memorial decided to close essential services, our inpatient pediatric unit, and our cardiac and pulmonary rehab. Never mind additional critical services at Burbank Hospital in Fitchburg and at Clinton Hospital. We have been here before. But I'm with you all to say, not again. You know, there's always a rivalry between Leominster and Fitchburg, but we are stronger when we are together, and never have I seen these twin cities stronger and more angry and more fired up. And we need to be all in this together, and we need to believe that we can save this unit. The hospital has been very clear that this is a futile effort, like that we shouldn't be spending our energy trying to protect our community. But I'm standing here with all of my legislative delegation today saying we are fighting. We are turning over every single rock. We are proud to be standing shoulder to shoulder with the Mass Nurses Association. Any nurses, I know the nurses will be speaking throughout tonight, but for the nurses from Leominster Hospital or the surrounding hospitals, can you please stand up and can we please thank you for your service? Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for being there when our families need it the most. For so many of our loved ones, they have gotten incredible care at Leominster Hospital, care that we deserve in our community hospitals in gateway cities like Leominster and Fitchburg. But we have watched UMass Memorial just cut, death by 1,000 cuts, cut away from Leominster, from Fitchburg, from Clinton, and we cannot let this continue. That is why we're showing up today. And I know that there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of it led by the hospital leadership to confuse us. It's not lost on me that they made the announcement right before a holiday weekend, right in the middle of summer. They hoped that we weren't going to show up, but that's not what Leominster and Fitchburg and North Central Mass does. So I'm supposed to be setting the agenda of kind of where we are and what tools we have in our tool chest. We are within the 90-day window. Leominster Hospital and UMass Memorial intend to close the birthing center on September 23rd. We have 90 days to save our birthing center, to save our labor and delivery. UMass decided to close this unit. They can decide to keep this unit open. And they have been very clear to the legislative delegation that this is not a financial decision. This is not about a lack of need in these twin cities. And it's just a staffing challenge. We know that there are workforce challenges all across the Commonwealth, all across healthcare and so many other industries. But that is a solvable problem. That is something that the delegation is happy to help them learn how to meet that challenge and make sure that we can keep these services. The nurses have been doing everything that they possibly can to keep these services here in our community where these hundreds of families need them. And so we have 90 days to challenge the hospital and say, no, we're not going to let you close this unit. We're not going to let you take away these critical services from our community. We're getting ready, and we don't have the date yet, but we think this week we'll know. The Department of Public Health has to hold an essential service hearing. It's going to happen in the middle of July, and we're going to need all of you to show up to the hearing, to tell your stories, to tell the Department of Public Health just how critical these services are for our community and how unacceptable it is that we're asking families to travel to Gardner, to Worcester, to Concord to get birthing care. Leominster Hospital provides birthing services for almost 600 families every single year. We can sustain this. We need this. And it's not a service that the rabbi so aptly said, we cannot have one death on our hands, but that is what the hospital is asking us to do, to look the other way and accept that some folks aren't going to get the care that they need. Some folks are going to show up at a critical moment and have to give birth in an ER without the services they need. Be giving birth on the side of the road, trying to get to one of these other communities with a hospital. We cannot do that. We deserve more than that. So we will continue, the legislative delegation, they're going to be speaking later, will continue to bring your questions to the hospital leadership, poke holes in all of the bad data that they continue to send us. They continue to show us and build their own case of why we need this service in our community. And we're going to continue lifting up your stories. But this is something that we've got to do together. This is something that we cannot do alone. We need you to show up. We need to make sure that you're turning out your friends and your family, and that we're keeping this birthing center open at Leominster Hospital. And we've got to do this. We got 90 days. So I'm so grateful to be here and so excited to hear all of the other speakers tonight. Thank you.
I'm going to read a statement on behalf of Congressman McGovern, who was not able to be here today, but who will be here tomorrow. Yes, thank you, Congressman McGovern. He's another rock star. All right, Congressman McGovern is unable to be here with us this evening again, but he asked that I share a statement on his behalf. I was deeply disappointed when I learned of UMass Memorial's plan to close their labor delivery unit in Leominster. Labor and delivery is an essential service. Having a baby is stressful enough, and having to travel even farther to a hospital is an unnecessary stressor. And this on top of what we already know, that access to reliable and convenient transportation is often a barrier to health care for some of our most vulnerable community members. I look forward to meeting with Dr. Eric Dixon, President and CEO of UMass Memorial Health, and other health administrators to determine whether or not this closure decision is indeed final. I also want to ensure that hospital leaders remain committed to providing high-quality essential services like labor and delivery that are very much needed in Leominster and the surrounding areas. I will continue to work alongside our state and local elected officials with the hope that the hospital will reverse their decision and keep labor and delivery in Leominster. Thank you for being here tonight to make your voices heard.
As we continue on with the programming, I just want you to think for a moment. What is happening in our community has been happening throughout the nation for many years, creating these healthcare deserts, the gentrification of essential services. That's what's happening in our community. And that's what we will not accept in our community, because we all get to live. We all get to live. We get to remember that if, we're going to cancel that. But what would be created would be a God committee in deciding who gets to live and who dies. Because the resources that are very little right now in our area will be less. We already know the burden in the emergency room here. We already know what that looks like. Just imagine that. With that, I'm going to bring over some of the warriors that have worked so hard, that have fought so diligently while having a personal life, because we all get to live. With that, we're going to invite up Tara, Corey, and Amy Gagnon, and they are our nurse warriors!
Thank you. My name is Tara Corey, and I'm a proud nurse at Leominster Hospital. I started my career at a big Boston City hospital, but quickly realized the value of a small community hospital for my patients. I transitioned to Leominster 8 years ago, and I've spent the last 3 in the birthing center. You need to know that all the nurses of Leominster Hospital, including those like me working in our birthing center, love this community, and we are so grateful to see so many people here tonight to support our ability to do what we love so much to do for you and your families. This is my community, and Leominster Hospital is my community hospital. My husband and I were both born at Leominster, and it is where I gave birth to both of our children. Leominster Hospital is quite literally, thank you, where my life and my family began. I consider it an honor and a privilege to care for members of my own community during the most profound moments of their lives. Helping new parents bring their miracle babies into this world and watching those babies take their first breaths is truly one of the greatest joys of my life. Communities should not be left in a lurch with just 4 months' notice of a closure. Expectant mothers should not be left to come up with a new birth plan halfway through their pregnancy. Hospitals should have to engage meaningfully with communities ahead of any closure announcements. I fear for those who will be left behind if our birthing center does close. The mothers who won't make it to a hospital and will deliver on the side of the road in their vehicles with no medical personnel present. The mothers who will deliver on the side of Route 2 in an ambulance on a non-sterile gurney. The mothers delivering in a crowded and busy emergency room with overloaded staff who do not specialize in childbirth and neonatal care. All mothers should have a safe place to deliver their babies, physically, medically, and emotionally. And babies should come into this world under the care of trained personnel and an environment catered to them. Mothers and babies should be able to be cared for at our birthing center. I am both saddened and alarmed that our employer wants to strip this community of this absolutely essential service and the impact this will have on all of you. To us, every life we deliver is a precious gift, and we are outraged to see what UMass Memorial wants to do to you and your families. We will not go down without a fight, and with you all standing with us, my hope is that we can win this fight and continue to provide the care that you expect and deserve from your community hospital.
Thank you, Tara. My name is Amy Gagnon. I'm a registered nurse at the Birthing Center at Leominster Hospital. I've worked at the hospital for more than 12 years. Like so many of you here today, I am outraged by the plan to close this essential service as there is no medical or moral justification for this decision. This closure is the latest in a series of closures by major healthcare corporations to drive patients to major urban medical centers as a means of boosting their profits at the expense of the patients served by the community hospitals, particularly those served gateway cities like Leominster and Fitchburg. UMass's rationale for the closing, which they claim is due to a shortage of staff, is a red herring. Any of the problems with staffing at our hospital is by design. And the result and the result of mismanagement as evidenced by the fact that they have been purposely withholding jobs for over a year to claim they have no staff when we have documented evidence of experienced labor and delivery nurses being told there were no jobs or that jobs were frozen. I have been fighting with upper management for over a year to get these nurses hired and get these nurses trained. It's all part of their plan to streamline services to drive patients to Worcester and not what is best for our community. For years, I have been offering the hospital many ideas to improve the service and to recruit staff onto the unit. But at every turn, they have refused to cooperate with us to promote this vitally important program. And adding insult to injury, after announcing the plan to close the service because they lack staff to fill 4 positions on labor and delivery, a week after the announcement of the closing, they hired 12 travel nurses, fully staffing our hospital as they proceeded with the process to close us. So it is clear staffing is not an issue. It is their willingness to pay the cost to operate this service. So as a result, the 500 to 700 mothers that we deliver each year will now be forced to risk their health and their well-being and that of their newborn and child and seek care at birthing centers far from home. These results will be devastating. In fact, recent studies have linked excessive travel time and the lack of timely access to maternity care with a number of negative health outcomes for both mothers and newborns, including increased risk for heart failure for infants, prolonged hospitalization, and increased risk of infant and maternal mortality. Conditions are even more dire when women of color and those that live in poor communities. 2 weekends ago, Tara and I had a shift with 8 deliveries, 3 of which were precipitous, which means their birth was imminent, with little time to spare. These were not mothers you would want to be put them in an ambulance or to be sent in a taxi to another hospital. Luckily, our center was open for them, and we could handle those deliveries as they should be handled. I perish the thought of what would happen in October to similar mothers should we lose this vital service. Finally, the other option, if the center closes, is for those mothers to deliver in the emergency room. While our emergency staff is very capable and very talented, they lack the support, resources, and experience to provide the level of care our mothers should expect. More importantly, an emergency room with all the noise, turmoil, and commotion is no place to bring a new life into this world. So we are here today to thank you for your support and urge you to raise your voice and to help us save this service. This is your community, and you deserve to keep this service for your future and the future of your loved ones.
Thank you, ladies. Next, we're going to have Nettie Latimer, who is the Executive Director of the Spanish American Center, say a few words. She's been serving. Talk about a rock star. She's been serving our community for 53 years. And, oh, sorry, 54, I was corrected. but Nettie has witnessed a lot of changes in our community. She has seen healthcare services diminishing in our community. So she's going to speak to her perspective and how it's impacted our communities over the years.
No, in my years living here, okay, I witnessed the closing of Birthing Hospital in Leominster, the closing of the School of Nursing, the prenatal clinic, and the pediatric ward, and now the recent announcements of the maternity ward closing. When I got the news, let me tell you, that impacted me, and I started to cry. And we need to keep, the maternity ward here. It's going to impact many families. Women will have to seek services far away in other communities. I am against the closing. Today, more than ever, I ask for everyone's support. Let's preserve the maternity ward. And thank you all for your support, okay? Thank you for coming.
Thank you. A round of applause for Nettie. We thank her so much because we've seen the services being taken away from us. Thank you. And now the next speaker is going to be Leona Wetzel, who is the president of the Three Pyramids Coalition. Let's invite Leona here. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Eladia, and thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to say a few words here tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. So, as Irene said, I'm Leona Wetzel. I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother. And I'd like to take just a moment to share a few statistics on maternal mortality rates as it relates to Black women and Black indigenous people of color and how it affects us. We are suffering, and we are dying. This decision will affect all of us, all women. I would like to share a few statistics and facts about Black maternal and mortality rates, specifically impacting women of color. Black women have the highest maternal mortality rate in the U.S. In 2021, the maternal mortality rate for non-Hispanic Blacks, subsequently Black women, was 69.9 deaths per 100,000 live births, 2.6 times the rate for non-Hispanic white women, 26.6. Rates for Black women were significantly higher than rates for white and Hispanic women, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This report was May 23, 2023. Black infants have the highest infant mortality rate in the United States. An infant death occurs within the first within the first year of life. During 2017 and 2019 average, the infant mortality rate per 1,000 live births in the United States was highest for black infants, 10.8, followed by American Indian, Alaska Natives, 8.4, Hispanics, 5, whites, 4.6, and Asian Pacific Islanders, 3.8. Black babies are more likely to die, and also far more likely to be born prematurely, setting the stage for health issues that could follow them through their entire life. Black women are 3 times more likely to die and also more likely to be born prematurely, setting the stage for health issues. I'm sorry, lost my place here. Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women. Multiple factors contribute to these disparities, such as variation in quality health care, underlying chronic conditions, structural racism, and implicit biases. The rate of infant mortality death among black babies is almost 2 times higher than the national average, 5.4 per 1,000 live deaths. So I'm going to end with this. National Partnership for Women and Family states, too many black women are dying in pregnancy and childbirth. I could have been one of those statistics. I had 3 daughters right here in this area, 2 at Burbank and 1 in Leominster, and all 3 of my pregnancies were at-risk pregnancies. And I was blessed. I was blessed to have the best doctors, amazing doctors that saved my life and my baby's lives, and they were right here in this community. So with that being said, we're hoping that this decision can be reconsidered, taking a deeper look at the impact this decision will have on our communities, all of us, all of our women and our women of color, who will be most impacted based on these statistics. This decision will affect all of us. We are urging the hospital. I can't say it enough because I got a grandbaby. I got more coming too. But we are urging the hospital to rescind their plan and to preserve this vital service, because we're talking about lives. We're talking about saving lives. And I just thank you for the opportunity to share tonight.
Thank you, Leona. So what we get to do is reverse this decision. What we get to do is call the board. Call them forward. Have them answer to our community that didn't have a voice when making this decision. It gets to be reversed. And now we're going to invite Ms. Terry Tirado. She is a domestic violence advocate at the Spanish American Center. Terry?
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak and to speak for my people. Not only am I a domestic violence advocate, I'm a woman in recovery with 27 years off of heroin. In 1993, at Leominster Hospital, I was having my son before time. I wasn't looked at that nicely. I was in active addiction. And it's hard for me to say this, but I came from a very, very strict Adventist home, and here I was, a heroin addict in Leominster Hospital, and I wasn't looked at so pleasantly. But they treated me. They treated me. And I had my son. My son was born withdrawing from heroin, methadone, and cocaine. And it wasn't a pretty sight. It wasn't a pretty sight. And I was embarrassed. And it's still hard for me to talk about this right now. but I needed that birthing and delivery. I needed it. I needed somebody there that had compassion. And I wish I could tell you that everyone had compassion with me and everyone was okay with what I was doing in my pregnancy, but no. But there was that one nurse that treated me so good that if my son was a girl, I was going to name him after her. But he was a boy. And it's just so important with the women in recovery because now with the methadone and the Suboxone, 23 miles before you get your treatment, it doesn't work like that with us. It doesn't work like that. We need treatment on the spot. We need to get taken care of right then and there. You know, and in domestic violence, they're fleeing. They're in danger. They don't want nobody to know, even their first name. They don't want no one to know even who they are. They need on-the-spot delivery. They don't need to go 23 miles away or wait. They need it right there, right now. And I was going to talk about statistics, and I was going to talk about Operation Bootstrap, which is people who know from Puerto Rico about Operation Bootstrap and the birthing and all the history of Puerto Rico. But like what really matters is don't shut us down. That's it. Just don't shut us down. Because we need safety of our women to be able to birth someplace close where they can get treated for domestic violence and where they can get treated for their addictions and mental illness. And it still runs rampant in this area. We need this help. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that personal story, Terry. I know that is not always easy. Thank you. But as she mentioned, we do have amazing nurses and doctors in our community. They take care of our baby. They take care of our children. They take care of us. And we're going to hear from one this evening who's also going to speak to the impact that it's going to present for pediatricians in the area. So with that being said, I'd like to bring up Dr. Fernando Catalina.
Thank you for that nice welcome. It makes me feel old that I've been practicing here for 23 years, and so many of my patients now bring their children to me. So when they start bringing their grandkids to me, it's time to retire. Right. So, along with many local doctors, I am very concerned about the impact that closing the maternity unit at Leominster Hospital will have on our patients. The leadership at UMass Memorial has said they're closing the labor and delivery unit because of quality concerns. But in fact, as others have mentioned, there's significant data showing the negative effects on the health of infants and their mothers when women have to travel to have their babies. Studies show, and I have the references if anyone wants them, that when an expecting mother has to travel 30 minutes or more, babies have an increased risk of fetal heart rate anomalies, meconium-stained amniotic fluid, out-of-hospital births, and prolonged hospitalization. And this can result in an increase in perinatal and maternal mortality. It's also been shown that the closure of labor and delivery units in rural areas disproportionately affects women on Medicaid. This leads to decreased prenatal care, and having to travel for prenatal care increases the stress and anxiety of expecting mothers. Maternal stress has a significant impact on both the mother and on development of the baby. UMass says that it's closing the Leominster Labor and Delivery Unit because of quality concerns. But history does not support this. In 2005, a state quality review found that patients who had cardiac surgery at UMass were dying and getting infections at a higher rate than would be expected compared to other hospitals. These were serious quality concerns, and people were dying. UMass did not permanently close their cardiac surgery program. They suspended it for 6 weeks. They made significant changes and investments in the program, And they reopened the cardiac surgery program, and now it's a high-quality program taking care of patients. Now, why would they put such an effort to improve quality of cardiac surgery, but not do it for labor and delivery? I served on the Board of Trustees at Leominster Hospital for many years, and I was chairman of the board from 2016 until 2020. In my experience, when you're concerned about the quality of a program that's vital to the community that it serves, you don't close that program. You figure out how to make it better. While on the hospital board, I was told that labor and delivery department at the hospital loses money every year. But I was also told that it's a critical service to our community and that we had no plans to close it. I'm not on the board anymore. Now that we're being told that they're closing labor and delivery due to quality concerns, but as I've shown, this doesn't make sense. Closure of labor and delivery is yet another step in cutting back the services offered to North Worcester County, as mentioned by others here today. At one time, there were 4 hospitals that served the Fitchburg and Leominster area. In 1993, the last 2 hospitals, Burbank and Leominster, merged. And shortly after that, they closed the inpatient medical unit at Burbank. In 2010, they closed the Burbank Hospital Mental Health Unit. And in 2018, they closed the pediatric floor at Leominster. They closed cardiac and pulmonary rehab program at Leominster. They closed the urgent care at Burbank. And in 2019, they closed the Burbank Child Development Unit. Now they're talking about closing labor and delivery in Leominster. How long before we don't have any hospital here at all? Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fernando Cadalida. Thank you. Thank you. And now we're going to invite the next doctor up here, Dr. Peter McConnery. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming. Another one of our warriors.
Thank you very much. When they asked me to come speak, they said, well, we need a doctor on the thing. So here I am. But they didn't tell me I was going to be following Fernando. So I'm in a rough way here. Because Fernando has just told you a story that I want to emphasize, and emphasize the implications of that story. My wife was a nurse midwife, and we came to Fitchburg primarily because there was an out-of-hospital birthing center. Anybody here know where the cottage is, right? And that was a pretty amazing place. Hands-on, low intervention, wonderful, wonderful care for mothers, families, and babies. The first closing in this series of closings was that out-of-hospital birthing center. You know, good care does not necessarily make the most money. And when the benefits to the community are weighed against the money, there has to be some compromise, except in the circumstance where there are tyrants making the decisions and not taking into any consideration what the quality of care is beyond the kind of things they can measure. There are things they can't measure. Now, we've just heard from both of these ladies about outcomes that would have been conceivably very different and very bad in both their stories. We all know stories of people who have barely reached the hospital or have not reached the hospital, and We don't want to be hearing bad stories. We don't want to be hearing disastrous stories. We want to be hearing about excellent quality care in our local community. So the first closing was at the birthing center. And then they said, oh, well, we're going to merge these two hospitals. But we would never close any services at Burbank. What was the first thing that they closed at Burbank Hospital? Labor and delivery. The very first thing. Because labor and delivery is an essential service. It is at the center of people's experience. These are people who are not ill. They're experiencing giving birth to their children and bringing home happy mothers and babies, husbands. So the first thing was they closed labor and delivery. Well, you can't have labor and delivery. You can't have a nursery without labor and delivery, so that had to go. So then you had to close the pediatric inpatient service at Burbank, because that had to go because then you didn't have enough demand for inpatient. So you lost the whole block. What's there now? A great big building with a cancer center. No access. When they said, we wouldn't do that, right? So, Representative Higgins reminded me about death by 1,000 cuts. This is one more cut. I worked here for 38 years. I retired a few years ago. I saw a lot of cuts happen. They were not good things for this community. If you're going to have, as Representative Higgins said, death by 1,000 cuts, what you want to avoid is the death. But you stop the 1,000 cuts before it gets to 1,000. Now, where are we now? Are we at 400 cuts? Are we at 600 cuts? Are we at 900 cuts? Wherever it is, it's time to stop the cuts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McConery. Thank you so much. Thank you. And now we're going to invite a few families that are expecting. We get to hear from them, yes? Gretchen Rodriguez and Natasha Peralta, please come up here. And Jordan. Come on up, Jordan. Jordan's really expecting like now.
So Jordan just came to our meeting from the emergency room. So she heard we were having this meeting, so she came to join us. So you're going to hear her story right now. She's a prime example, right? Here we go.
Hi, my name is Jordan Bove. You can hear me now? All right, cool. I've never had that problem. I'm really loud. This is my first baby. I'm 25. So yesterday, I guess I started like early labor. That's a thing. And I was having like extreme back pain, and then they told me I'm supposed to deliver at St. Vincent's. And I'm like, how is someone supposed to like make it there? I was like, I'm really nervous. I don't know. So then I'm actually like sitting there in my living room, and all of a sudden I like think my water breaks. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. So I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. No one can make it to St. Vincent's after their water breaks. So I'm like, I have to go to Leominster. Leominster still has labor and delivery, right? So I call, and they were so receptive and wonderful on the phone because I'm freaking out. And I get there, they're wonderful. They work with me. Turns out my water did not break. I just kind of like peed a little, but it's fine. And it happens to the best of us. It's like we do what we have to do for the baby. So, but my experience there was absolutely wonderful. But the fear I had in that moment of like, I have to go all the way to Worcester. I don't know how to, I'm counting these contractions. I don't know if I'm too close, am I too late? Am I not too late? And the fact that there was a birthing center right up the street from me, literally 2 minutes, the reassurance that gave me and the comfort that gave me, especially as a first-time mom, was amazing. The fact that that could possibly go away, I'm terrified now. I'm actually terrified. I'm nervous. I have anxiety. What if something goes wrong with like my baby one night and I can't get there, or I have another kid and there's nothing near me? The fact of maybe delivering in an emergency room terrifies me. Like, we already know how like impacted the emergency room is right now. Imagine going in there as like a first-time mom, a second-time mom, just a mother in general, and I think I'm in labor. I don't know what's going on, or you're bleeding, and everybody looks at you like, okay, and like you don't get a labor and delivery doctor, a nurse, like you don't get that. You get emergency room, which they see everything every day, but not births. You know what I mean? Like, what if something goes wrong? So I think this is something that needs to stay. I grew up here. I was born at Leominster. I have 2 step kids that were born at Leominster. Like, the experiences have been amazing, and you shut this down, like, where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? Like, we're in the like scariest times of our lives. That's a problem for me. Here you go.
Well, hi, I'm Natasha. I'm also 25. I was born and raised in Leominster, and I was born at Leominster Hospital. So same thing as her, I'm first-time mother. And it's also very terrifying to realize the fact that the labor in the building will be gone, and I wouldn't know what to do either. Me and my fiance, we share transportation, so he mainly has like the car for, for work and stuff. So what happens if I'm at home getting prepared for labor and my water breaks and stuff, and I don't have the transportation to get there, or I would have to wait for him to come home 22 minutes away just for me to find the transportation that I need to get to all the way to Worcester or Boston or per se Gardner. So I have the same fears as she does, and it's very like not reassuring, the fact that this is my first time being a mother and I don't even know how to plan those things out.
Good afternoon, community. My name is Gretchen. Natasha's mother. As a mother, I'm going to start the story. I have 4 children from Leominster Hospital. God bless the Leominster Hospital for the preference for especially her. Very precious, very, I forgot the name. Very lucky that I have Leominster Hospital. I have them because I know my daughter would be here right now. I was in risk. My second birth, I live in Leominster. They did excellent job. My third birth, excellent job at Leominster Hospital. My fourth birth, it was hard. Thank you to Leominster Maternity, did the best thing for me. It's hard for me to say the story, but God bless my baby boys here because them. They did excellent job to have my baby alive. They helped me out to bring it to Worcester, but they survived me and my child because we were very in risk, the situation that we passed through. But he's here, he's already 7. He didn't come because he have a game today, but I want him to be here so you can see my big boy, beautiful boy. And thank you so much, maternity, to do what you guys do. Please, community, please, your mass memorial, don't close the maternity. We need maternity here in Leominster for these women that been having baby today. We need to support this. We need the maternity in Leominster just because we need. There's women that cannot be in Worcester. They don't have transportation. They don't have the money to be there. Maybe they don't have parents to support this. Maybe parents cannot go and don't see them at Worcester Hospital. Please support this and keep the maternity open in Leominster. Thank you.
And when we're thinking about transporting people from Leominster to Worcester, we have the fire department that's already burdened, the ambulances that many times right now there aren't any available. So we wanted to also, there's some EMTs in the back. I don't know if you're fire, but thank you for being here as well. And then the other part is, the hospital says there's money for this, but guess what? It's going to come back to us as the taxpayers with PT1 that already has lots of issues and scarcity. Essential services.
So we're fortunate to have our mayor here. Mayor Mazzarella has joined us and is going to say some words.
On a hazy, hot, humid night, you came out. And now I understand what my mother says when she reminds me how hot and humid it was in August when I was born at Leominster Hospital. So you don't have to send me gifts or anything. But first of all, thank you to the synagogue and the rabbi for allowing us to always open our doors. This so happens to be a convenient location. Unfortunately, the hospital thought it would be a good PR move today if they would shut off the lower parking lot that nobody really ever uses and put some security guards out there so that you would have to park in the street. I don't get this sometimes. I really don't. Do you understand this? And to build that other parking lot in the back there, the one that nobody uses, way up in the back, I see the deer roaming around out there. I don't know how much they spend on that parking lot. But there are a lot of people that already spoke and others that will have to speak. Let me just kind of refine my thoughts to a couple things. I feel like we should be here tonight with shirts that said, "We survived." We survived the merger of the Leominster campus and Fitchburg. There were two separate hospitals. But we were told they can't survive on their own. You know, the world's changing, healthcare's changing, and we fought it, but we had to end up sort of complying. And then it was closing of the emergency room in Fitchburg. You know, we survived. And then it was the expansion of the emergency room that was so badly needed, but it had to be delayed because Worcester had some financial problems. Then it was the merger of Leominster Health Alliance system with UMass. And at the time, if you remember, the promise to us was that we were losing some things, not many at the time, but we're losing some things. And our relationship with UMass was going to come in and actually maintain what we had, but bring back. That was the reason that we got involved and established a relationship with UMass and Health Alliance to make it one unit, is because they were going to bring services back. The reality is, all that's happened is it's gone one at a time. Like the doc said, what's next? You know, it was this and then cardiac and then this, because we don't need this, we don't need that. So I don't know if anything's gotten back. But what I can tell you is that the answer always seems to be the healthcare industry is changing, the world's changing. Well, I can just tell you from running a city with so many others that assist us on a daily basis, close to 500 employees, we don't have the option. We have to make things work. And that's the new world, is you got to make it work. And, you know, the fire department and the chief and myself, when we sat down, and we knew it would be a really great value to have a paramedic service in the city. Were we financially ready to do it? No, it wasn't the opportune time, but we sat down and we worked it out, and now we have paramedics. And that was about working together. That was about working together because we had our eye on the ball, which was we want paramedics here. It's good for the public. It's a good service to have. And we made it work. And there just seems to be an attitude of, well, you know what? We tried. I don't know what tried means, a banner out front, or I'm not sure what it means. And it doesn't work anymore, and healthcare industries change. I don't know. Everybody that's here has some function in the world today, or our community, where life has changed. But you had to make it work, didn't you? And that's our avenue is we need to hold them accountable. We need to make them sit down with us and make this work. And, and to think that the next child born here in the city of Leominster, if they get their chance, will be born in an ambulance or at the back of a cab or at the back of somebody's SUV. That's the reality. That's the truth. And more luckily, they'll have a firefighter next to them that'll be helping them out, or a paramedic. But in a community of, this area of over 100,000 people, no metropolitan area in this country has no service for maternity, no other in the whole country. Think about, why that is? Because it's a much needed service in a community like ours, collectively. So thank you for being here tonight on a hot and humid night. And just the fact that these moms would show up tonight and share their experience about how important it is, that's from them. That's not from me or the senator or the state reps. That's them talking to you about, and a doctor saying, and we know this, and the fire department knows this, we're talking seconds. We're talking seconds. 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 We don't have a lot of time in a lot of situations. So to each and every one of you for coming out tonight, this just shows how important it is. As a community, I can just tell you, everyone here that's up here tonight and all of you, we will not go down without the most toughest of all fights possible. We're going to right to the end. So hang in there and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Mazzarella. And he's right. Our community, we can't just sit back and allow them to just implement this plan. And what I keep hearing in the community, and I've heard over and over people say, what is the point? They've already made their decision. Well, guess what? We don't get to just sit back and lie back and just allow that to happen. We are a community, and we get to respond. And we get to have our voices heard. And we get to demand that they come back and reverse the decision. At least listen to us. They haven't listened to us yet. So, yes, we will continue to be in this fight. With that being said, we also have a bunch of champions here, our legislators, right, who have been, since day one, fighting the way, trying to get them to reverse this, again, since day one. They are our champions. So I'm going to introduce first Senator John Cronin. And he's going to be joined by Representative Mike Kushmerik and Representative Meg Kilcoyne.
Hi, everybody. My name is Meg Kilcoyne. I'm state representative for the 12th Worcester District, which includes the town, about 6 communities just south of here. We're sandwiched right between Worcester and Leominster. And so many of my constituents rely on Leominster Hospital for their care, and I'm so honored to be joining Senator Cronin and Representative Higgins and our colleagues in the North Central area, a few of whom you'll hear from tonight, in this fight. I can't help but think, standing here before you all, of where I was standing about almost a year to the day. The Supreme Court had just overturned Roe v. Wade, upending 40 years of precedent in women's health care. And I was about a mile away from my old high school. I was with about 100 or so young women, aged 15, 16, 17, 18, who on that day should have been thinking about their summer plans, of their graduation, of their prom, but were standing there before me, terrified, distraught, upset, and scared about living in a country that no longer prioritized or cared about women's health, about living in a country where they realized and recognized that policy decisions could kill them. When I was 15 years old, I never had to be afraid about starting a family, or at least I didn't know any better. But these young women understood what was at stake, and they stood before me and said, at that age, that they were afraid to have a baby because they were afraid that a decision was going to be made that would lead them to die, that they would rather never even try to have children in the country that they live in if it meant risking their own lives. And these girls were crying. And I remember thinking at the time that I wanted I empathized with them and I wanted to make them feel better. So I stood before them and I said, don't worry, we have you. We got you. We're going to protect women's health in Massachusetts. And to the Commonwealth's credit, we did. We acted swiftly to codify protections in state law. We acted swiftly to make sure women coming to the state to receive care would be protected from other actions of other states. And I felt good about that then. But what I didn't know at that time is that a year later, I would be here and I would be faced with the prospect of the fact that in our own backyard, we are faced with a decision that could render women's health in central Massachusetts at risk. I'm in my 30s right now. I will be making a decision at some point to start a family. I remember feeling sympathy for those young women then that felt scared to do the same, never thinking that I would be faced with a prospect that at age 35, I may be faced with having less options to receive care if I choose to have a baby than my mother did almost 40 years ago. If we want to talk, if we want to take seriously the fact that we want to pride ourselves as a state that prioritizes women's health, that makes it safe to start a family, then we have to fight these fights. That the fight right here is worth having, because we can't talk about being a leader in the nation, for taking care of women, for being a safe place to start a family, if we are dismantling centers of care for the women in our backyard. I'm so grateful to be with you all in this effort and in this fight, and there's a few more other people that you want to hear from as well. But thank you all for being here, and we will do everything we can and to stop this from happening, because we want Central Massachusetts to be a great place to live. We want everybody who wants to be able to start a family, and we want that to be safe, and everybody deserves access to that care. So thank you all very much.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I will start by just saying business as usual by UMass Memorial has got to stop, because business as usual is causing real harm to our families here in North Central Massachusetts. I want to talk about what we've been told and what's actually true. What we've been told by UMass Memorial is that there is a declining and falling birth rate in North Central Massachusetts. What's actually true is that it's false. Births in North Central are stable. Fitchburg and Leominster are growing. So that's untrue. We've been told by UMass Memorial that there are workforce shortages that we cannot overcome. That is not true. We've been told that those workforce shortages have caused unsafe conditions at the labor and delivery unit in our hospital. I'll pause right there. I want every healthcare provider in labor and delivery, every nurse, everybody who is a provider in our healthcare system here in North Central Massachusetts to stand up again. One more time, please stand up. We know what's actually true is that the healthcare services that all the people that just stood up have provided our community for decades is outstanding, and it is excellent. And we know that's true because we listened to the stories that we heard in this room. We listened about Irene's family. We heard Eladia's story. We heard the 3 young mothers and heard their stories and what access to labor and delivery care really means. So what's actually true is we have an essential service that delivers exceptional care, and it is being taken from 2 gateway cities where we should be fighting tooth and nail to add more essential services to. And we'll be honest, we don't live in la-la land in this delegation. Healthcare is complicated. Healthcare is really complicated. How to pay for it, how to offer it, how to train the workforce for it, all of those are complicated issues. But let's be very clear about what is simple. And what is simple is what needs to happen to save the labor and delivery unit at Leominster Hospital. That is really simple, because one thing needs to happen. Dr. Dixon, who's the CEO of the UMass Memorial System, who I'm sure is a good man and has a hard job and has helped thousands of patients in our community over his long career, Dr. Dixon needs to come to this delegation. He needs to talk to Mayor Mazzarella. He needs to speak to Mayor DiNatale, and he needs to tell us what he needs in resources, in staffing, and money. What does he need to keep the labor and delivery unit open? Healthcare is complicated, but that is really simple. That is where the buck stops. He is in charge of our healthcare system in north central Massachusetts, and he doesn't just have a responsibility to come to the table and tell us what he needs. He has a duty in a position of public trust to come tell us what he needs to keep this essential service in our community for the next generation of expectant mothers, for the next generation of newborn babies, and for the future of our healthcare system here in north central.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Kushmerek. I'm the state representative for Fitchburg and Lunenburg. First, I want to commend two just incredible women who have pulled this event together tonight. Irene, Eladia, and the entire team of Community United, thank you so much. You don't like the praise, but you deserve it. I'm feeling a lot of things tonight. I'm feeling a sense of hope and of unity in our community. Fitchburg and Leominster are often rivals, as Rep. Higgins mentioned. We pick fights with each other, but nobody picks a fight with us. Never before has the North Central community been more unified than it is in this moment. From federal legislators in Congress to the 10 senators and representatives of the North Central Massachusetts delegation, and all of our municipal leaders across Fitchburg, Leominster, and all of the surrounding towns and communities, everybody is in alignment on this one. That doesn't happen often. We have an opportunity to do something here that doesn't happen often across the state in reversing these decisions. We can clap for that. So yes, I'm feeling hopeful. I have a 14-month-old son. And Gabriel has brought more joy and hope to my life than I've ever imagined. And I think every parent knows that feeling, right? Didn't know what I was talking about 15 months ago, but now I know. And I'm really sad to think that a decision is being made right across the street and in Worcester that will impact my son's ability to have that same joy in his community when he's an adult. Rep. Kilcoyne just talked about her entire generation of women having less rights than her mother had. It's just staggering to think about all of us in this room having less access and less rights than we had yesterday. And so I feel sad. But I also feel mad. I feel mad that yet again we are here. It started with Burbank. It started with consolidation of service after service. And a promise to us as a community that we're closing 2 hospitals into 1 because it's going to increase healthcare access and increase health outcomes. And the first thing they do is continue to pull back services from us. in the middle of a mental health crisis, they took our mental health unit from Burbank. They closed an urgent care facility and then extended to us an option for a for-profit credit card charging company on John Fitch Highway. We won't treat you unless we have your credit card on file. Come on. This is Massachusetts. We do better than that. I'm mad that an executive making nearly 7 figures in Worcester is making a decision about what's in our best interest as a community. We are a community of nearly 200,000 people in the Twin Cities and the surrounding community. And we're going to be losing our access. We should be mad about that. And make no mistake, when they're done with labor and delivery, they're coming for the hospital. So, I'm hopeful, I'm sad, I'm mad, and tomorrow we get motivated. So here's what we're going to do. We have less than 90 days to save this hospital, and we've got a lot of work to do. It's going to be the people in this room, and then we need to get 50 times more people activated, motivated, and working over these next 90 days. Tomorrow, your legislative delegation, municipal leaders, and Representative Jim McGovern are going to be across the street, meeting face-to-face with Eric Dixon to tell him, you will not close our hospital. We will not stand for it. This is our community. This is our hospital. And these are our lives being born in Leominster. And then from there, we need each and every one of you. After 8 a.m.'s meeting tomorrow morning, when we tell him we won't stand and we're going to offer a whole host of services in order to be able to save this unit, then we need each and every one of you. So, 4th of July parade in Fitchburg. That's the entire regional North Central parade. There's EMTs and fire and police from every community of North Central. But you know what there's also going to be? A whole bunch of us. So we want you to join us. 4th of July, 8 o'clock, we're lining up by the 99 in Fitchburg. And we're going to tell 10,000 people that we're not going to stand for this on the 4th of July. Most of you have signed a petition who are in this room. There are petitions going around, both paper format. We need to get this out to 10,000 people. We've got petitions here today. We've got a QR code right here. Senator Cronin, Rep. Kilcoyne, Rep. Higgins, myself, we each have something posted, and we'll post it again in the next 2 days on our Facebook pages and in our social media. Please make sure, whether you sign it online or in paper, we need to deliver 10,000 signatures to the desk of Eric Dixon to let him know. And then on July 10th, mark your calendars here, 6 p.m., we're going to have a stroller rally in downtown Leominster. We're going to have the news, we're going to have the press, and we're going to show them exactly what they're trying to take away. You don't need to have a stroller or a child. If you do, bring both. If you don't have either, we're going to have signs for you. We'll have a whole lot of signs to make sure that we're a united community standing against UMass and their decision. And then lastly, this is the most important. This sounds boring. It sounds like bureaucracy, and it is. It's both. But this is the moment where the people that really get to make a decision, the Department of Public Health, will make a decision and a final ruling on whether or not they can let this stand. We need each and every one of you to turn out. We need you to bring 10 people each. We need to pack the DoubleTree in Leominster on Monday, July 24th at 6 p.m. Monday, July 24th, 6 p.m., and we're going to make the folks from DPH be there until midnight. They're going to hear from each and every one of our members of the community about the impact that this will have on our community, on our lives, and on our hospital. We need each and every one of you to be there. You're going to testify, and you're going to look them in the face and right in the eyes, and you're going to tell them what this hospital and what this maternity unit means to you. All right? 90 days, folks. Let's get to work.